People used to treat me like I was nothing, just another poor black boy from the wrong side of town. But that was before I became the voice that shook the world, the echo of my mother's dreams reverberating through a packed auditorium. My name is Miguel, and I was 11, battling not just poverty but the haunting reality of my mother's precarious health. Venus, my mother, sick with a rare heart condition, lay in that cold hospital room, fighting for her life while I rehearsed for a talent show that could change everything. I wasn't just singing for glory. I was singing to save her, to gather the money we desperately needed for her treatment. As I stepped onto that stage for America's Rising Star, the disbelief in the judge's eyes was palpable. Sarah, the cold critic, smirked, but I pushed through the mockery, pouring my heart into a song she couldn't ignore. The moment I sang my mother's words, silence fell. My voice locked eyes with Anthony Miller, the esteemed producer who held secrets I didn't know. By the end of my performance, I was no longer a forgotten boy. I was a revelation, unearthing a lineage long buried beneath shame and abandonment. With my back against the wall, I discovered a strength I didn't know I possessed. What transpired next would reshape not just my fate, but the very essence of family ties and forgiveness. I was ready to confront the man who had abandoned me, ready to turn adversity into a song of redemption. Little did I know the truth would unravel in a way that none of us could have predicted, binding us together in the most unexpected way. Meliors, look at him. Who does he think he is? Sarah sneered, her eyes glazing over the small stage where Miguel stood, trembling yet resolute. The audience buzzed, laughter bubbling as the nerves gripped the boy. He felt like a tiny speck under a fluorescent spotlight, but the song his mom taught him reverberated in his heart.
State your name.
She snapped, arms crossed.
And don't mumble.
Miguel, his voice cracked, but he inhaled deeply. I'm here to sing for my mom. She needs help. The chuckles grew louder, turning into jeers.
Cute story, kid.
She said, rolling her eyes dismissively, glancing at her watch.
Next.
Miguel, wait, called Jason, the director. But the boy was already lost in his thoughts, convinced he was only setting himself up for more humiliation. As he started to sing, silence washed over the crowd. It was as if the world paused. Miguel poured everything into his notes, emotion flooding the air. He watched as Anthony, one of the judges, leaned forward, recognition dawning on his face. Yet Sarah's gaze remained cold and dismissive, a throne of power overshadowing his vulnerability. Team. After the performance, backstage, Miguel's heart hurt as he faced Anthony, the man whose absence had shaped his life. You don't even know my mom's name, do you? He challenged, fist clenched. You just abandoned us. Anthony faltered, faced with a truth too heavy to bear. I'm not here to accept your pity or your checks. I want you to say it. You're my father. Miguel's voice broke, the weight of his betrayal palpable in the air, sharp and unforgiving. Miguel stood backstage, his heart racing as he overheard snippets of conversation. The judges were critiquing his earlier performance, their words sharp and dismissive. Sarah leaned in, her laugh cutting the air like glass. Can you believe that? He thinks he can sing his way out of that neighborhood? Miguel winced, the words wrapping around him like a cold shroud. He had given everything to that song, his mother's love, her struggles, and her dreams for him. Yet here they were, ridiculing him instead of recognizing his truth. He took a deep breath, clenching his fists until the color drained from his knuckles, turning white with frustration. As he paced, Miss Gladys, the nurse, approached him, her face etched with concern. Miguel, your mother, she hesitated, searching for the right words. She's going to need you. She believes in you. The words hit him harder than any insult. For a moment, he felt like a boy again, safe in his mother's embrace. Anger boiled within him, anger at the world, at his father for abandoning them, at Sarah for mocking his pain. Then, during the lull before his next performance, he spotted Anthony lurking in the shadows, anxiety written across his face. Something shifted in Miguel. This wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about reclaiming his story, his voice. With a determined stride, he reached for the mic, ready to sing not just for the expected applause, but to unleash everything he had held inside. This time he would tell the world his truth, and he wouldn't stop until they listened. The crowd, the judges, and Anthony would finally understand. Miguel stood backstage, heart racing as he prepared for his second performance. He'd finally pulled together the courage to confront his father, not just through song, but through the weight of his truth. Holding his new, original lyrics tightly, he whispered to himself, "This time they'll hear me." He stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating his worn sneakers. The crowd settled, their chatter fading to a hum. Miguel felt the familiar sting of nerves, but he pushed them aside. With a deep breath, he began. Each note soared, carrying the pain of his mother's struggle and the longing for acknowledgement from Anthony. Twos as sang the powerful words. He noticed how heads turned, eyes widened. The audience leaned in, captivated by the raw honesty of his delivery. Even Sarah, who had once scoffed at him, now watched intently. Miguel caught Anthony's gaze, vulnerability and regret shimmering across his father's face. In the bridge of the song, Miguel's voice steadied, confidence pouring from his core. "You can't just disappear and think it's fine," he sang, heart pierced with raw emotion. The crowd erupted with applause, but Miguel continued. "I need to know you're with me, not just in dollars and cents." Upon finishing, silence followed. Miguel held his breath, anticipating the response. Then faintly he heard Anthony murmur, "I'm here." Those two words ignited a spark within Miguel. He had begun to reclaim not only his voice but his power. As he stepped off stage, he felt lighter. Not only had he confronted Anthony, but he also found a path towards something greater, understanding and healing. The journey wouldn't be easy, but this moment marked a shift. Miguel was ready to push back against the shadows of his past and guide his family toward a brighter future. Under the spotlight, Miguel's heart thrummed in unison with the rising crescendo of his song, a raw, aching melody that told the story of pain, perseverance, and a long-buried betrayal. As his voice filled the auditorium, the audience, once skeptical, shifted, drawn in by the depth of his emotions. Sitting at the judges' table, Anthony felt the weight of each note pull at him like a tide of memories crashing against his carefully constructed walls. The realization hit him hard. This was his son, the child he had abandoned, pouring out his soul for a mother he cherished and fought for. He could feel the eyes of Sarah, his former confidant turned cynical judge, narrow in disbelief and disdain as the room swelled with sympathy for Miguel. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment when Miguel unveiled not just his voice, but the hidden truths of his life. From the back of the stage, visual aids flickered to life, images of Venus, their shared past, and the stark truth of Anthony's negligence. The audience gasped collectively, understanding unfolding like the petals of a flower revealed at dawn. "Why did you leave us?" Miguel's voice cut through the silence that followed his performance, a palpable anger mixed with hope as he took a bold step toward Anthony. The glare of public scrutiny intensified as the whispered conversations in the crowd shifted, turning their contempt toward the once venerated judge. Anthony, trembling, his facade crumbling beneath the weight of his own neglect, finally met Miguel's gaze. I was wrong," he stammered, his voice barely rising above the hushed crowd. The confession hung in the air, filled with vulnerability. On the giant screen, a video call brought Venus into view, her fragile smile igniting a flicker of redemption within him, and the audience erupted into applause. In that instant, under the piercing lights of America's rising star, Miguel realized that his triumph wasn't about revenge. It was about connection, reconciliation, about rewriting his story with the power of truth. As Anthony reached toward him, tears in his eyes, Miguel extended a hand, not for blame, but for understanding, an acknowledgement of a new beginning. The silent moments of triumph resonated louder than any cheer, leaving an indelible mark on everyone witnessing this poignant transformation. As I look back on that moment, standing on stage, I realize it changed everything for me. I went from being a boy fueled by rage and hurt to someone who understood the complexity of love and forgiveness. My heart was heavy with the burden of abandonment. Yet in that confrontation, I found a strength I didn't know I had. I no longer sought revenge. I wanted healing for my mother, for myself, even for my father. It wasn't just about the truth coming to light. It was about bridging the chasm that had once felt insurmountable. The revelations reshaped not just my dreams, but also the family I longed for. I learned that redemption often requires more than a simple apology. It calls for genuine action towards change. So I ask you, do you think I went too far? What would you have done in my position? Have you ever had someone treat you like that? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences, reflect with me, and let's explore the delicate dance between right and wrong, power and justice together.